the chilling truth behind the Amityville Horror. Have you ever walked into a house and felt an immediate chill, a sense of wrongness that has nothing to do with the temperature? What if the very walls of a home could absorb the echoes of unspeakable violence, festering and growing until they begin to manifest a malevolence all their own? This is the chilling truth behind the Amityville Horror. In the quiet, unassuming suburb of Amityville, Long Island, on a tree-lined street just off the U Canal stands a house, a Dutch colonial, with its distinctive quarter-moon windows staring out like vacant eyes. At 112 Ocean Avenue, on the night of November 13th, 1974, a horrific crime shattered the suburban peace. Ronald DeFeo Jr., a young man, meticulously murdered his entire family, his parents, 2 brothers and 2 sisters, as they slept in their beds. He claimed he heard voices urging him to commit the heinous acts. A story of familial betrayal and madness. It was horrific, yet seemingly contained. But the house itself, the house held a deeper, more ancient evil. Just 13 months after the DeFeo murders, the Lutz family, George, Kathy, and her 3 children from a previous marriage, Daniel, Christopher, and Missy, bought the house. Despite its bloody history, the price was a steal and they needed a home. They were aware of the murders, even had a priest bless the house on their first day. But what they didn't know was that the blessing would be violently rejected, and the terror that would unfold within those walls would transcend human comprehension, cementing 112 Ocean Avenue as arguably the most infamous haunted house in American history. The disturbances began almost immediately. On the very first night, the priest who came to bless the house reported hearing a male voice demand, "Get out," as he sprinkled holy water in an upstairs room. He later suffered a high fever and painful blisters on his hands. Inside the house, the Lutz family experienced a rapid escalation of unsettling phenomena. Cold spots appeared without explanation, and strange, putrid odors like decay or raw sewage permeated certain rooms. Doors would slam shut on their own, windows would inexplicably open, and furniture would move. Kathy Lutz began to experience nightmares, reliving the DeFeo murders, awakening to find herself levitating slightly off the bed. George, though initially skeptical, soon found himself constantly cold, needing to keep fires roaring and windows open, yet unable to shake the pervasive chill. The presence in the house wasn't just playful. It was malevolent, and it grew bolder with each passing day. George would hear marching bands and voices in the house, even when alone. Missy, the youngest child, began conversing with an unseen pig-like creature named Jody with glowing red eyes. Walls would ooze green slime, and flies would congregate in swarms, even in the dead of winter, clustering on windows and walls. One night, Kathy's cross turned upside down and glowed bright green, burning her skin when she touched it. Red eyes were seen glowing from windows, and terrifying shadows would stalk the hallways. The family's emotional state deteriorated rapidly. George became increasingly aggressive and obsessed with the fireplace, while Kathy was plagued by night terrors and felt constantly watched, constantly afraid. The terror reached its climax when George, driven by an unseen force, tried to attack his own family, his eyes burning with an unholy light. It was clear the house wanted them out, or perhaps it wanted something far more sinister. It wanted them to stay, to join the Defios in its dark embrace. After just 28 days, the Lutz family fled 112 Ocean Avenue, leaving all their possessions behind. They never returned. Their harrowing account, chronicled in the Amityville Horror book and subsequent films, propelled the house into international infamy. Skeptics argued it was a hoax, a fabricated story for financial gain, yet the consistent details of their experiences, shared across countless interviews, and the undeniable terror etched onto their faces, told a different story. The subsequent owners of the house, though they never reported such extreme phenomena, still noted unsettling occurrences, cold spots, strange smells, and an undeniable feeling of an oppressive presence that lingered. They meticulously changed the house's address and windows to deter sightseers, but the memory, the legend, lived on. So the next time you see a house with an unsettling emptiness in its windows, or hear a local legend about a place where tragedy struck, consider the chilling truth behind the Amityville Horror. Remember that some structures, some homes, are not merely inanimate objects. They are conduits, prisons, or perhaps hungry entities themselves, capable of absorbing the raw essence of human suffering and transforming it into a palpable, terrifying force. Because sometimes a house isn't just a house, it's a tomb. And the spirits within, they might still be waiting for new occupants, new victims, to join them in their eternal silent torment. The infamy of 112 Ocean Avenue became a double-edged sword. While it drew sightseers and curious thrill-seekers, it also attracted those who believed they could understand and perhaps even contain its malevolence. Paranormal investigators, demonologists, and self-proclaimed psychics descended upon Amityville, eager to test their theories against the house's formidable reputation. Many brought sophisticated equipment, hoping to capture irrefutable evidence of the supernatural. Most left empty-handed, scoffing at the legends, attributing strange readings to static electricity or faulty wiring. But a select few encountered something that defied logic, something that clawed at the edges of their sanity. One such team, led by a renowned parapsychologist, Dr. Alan Thorne, spent a week within the house in the late 1970s. They meticulously wired every room with cameras, audio recorders, and environmental sensors. Initially, nothing happened beyond the occasional unexplained chill or faint odor. Dr. Thorne, a man of science, felt a growing sense of vindication, ready to debunk the entire Amityville myth. But on their final night, as a severe thunderstorm raged outside, the house seemed to come alive. Lights flickered violently, the temperature in the main living room plummeted to near freezing, and a cacophony of sound erupted from the walls. Whispers, guttural growls, and the chilling sound of what seemed to be children crying. Dr. Thorne's audio recordings from that night contained something truly horrifying. Amidst the chaos, a clear, guttural voice could be heard, not merely demanding, but commanding, "Get out! You are mine!" The entity's voice grew louder, morphing into a series of terrifying screams and roars that physically vibrated the microphones. The footage captured bizarre distortions, shadowy figures fleeting across the quarter-moon windows, objects levitating for mere seconds before crashing to the floor, and most disturbingly, a brief, terrifying glimpse of two glowing red eyes staring directly into one of their cameras from a darkened hallway before the feed abruptly cut out. The team fled the house in terror, leaving their equipment behind. Dr. Thorne, a man of unwavering skepticism, was utterly changed. He suffered from severe night terrors, claiming he could still hear the house's command echoing in his mind, and spent the rest of his life studying demonology, haunted by the undeniable evil he had encountered. He swore he could still feel the entity reaching for him, attempting to pull him back into its cold embrace. Despite the various owners who followed, and their attempts to exorcise or simply ignore its dark history, the malevolence of 112 Ocean Avenue continued to exert its influence. While no subsequent family reported the extreme terror of the Lutzes, the subtle disturbances persisted. Cold spots would linger in certain rooms, particularly the red room in the basement, where the DeFeo murders had begun. The noxious odors would occasionally return, a stark reminder of the decay that seemed to cling to the very essence of the house. Neighbors reported feeling an unusual sense of unease when walking past, a coldness in the air, or the fleeting impression of being watched from the vacant quarter-moon windows. The house, despite its new address and cosmetic changes, remained a scar on the suburban landscape, a silent monument to the evil it contained. It was as if the house itself had become a living, breathing entity, patiently waiting, its dark, heart still beating within its walls. So even if the infamous 112 Ocean Avenue now bears a different number, and its windows have been altered to hide its distinctive eyes, remember that some horrors cannot be simply covered up or forgotten. They linger, they wait. And the chilling truth behind the Amityville Horror is that the house, perhaps, was never just a location. It was, and still is, a consciousness forged from unspeakable violence, feeding on the fear and suffering of its inhabitants, its presence, a constant ominous hum beneath the veneer of quiet suburbia. And if you ever find yourself drawn to such a place, feeling that inexplicable chill or hearing a faint, insistent whisper, know that the house may not want you out. It might just want you to stay. Decades later, the internet, with its insatiable appetite for true crime and the unexplained, breathed new life into the Amityville legend. Urban explorers, amateur videographers, and online communities dedicated to the paranormal found new ways to connect with the infamous address. While direct access to the private residence became nearly impossible, the surrounding area, the canal, and even the nearby cemetery, where some of the DeFeo family members were buried, became new sites for spectral investigations. The house, though visually muted, continued to cast a long psychological shadow. The most unnerving development came from the dreams, not the vivid, terrifying nightmares that plagued Kathy Lutz, but subtle, insidious visions that began to afflict people around the world who had become deeply engrossed in the Amityville story. They would dream of the distinctive quarter-moon windows, not on a house they knew, but on their own homes, staring back at them from the darkness. They would hear faint whispers, not the commanding voice of the entity, but insidious suggestions, urging them towards isolation, towards anger, towards despair. Some reported waking up to find flies, a singular out-of-season fly, buzzing insistently at their bedroom window, regardless of the time of year or their geographical location. And then the echoes. People began reporting a strange auditory phenomenon, particularly in moments of heightened emotion or vulnerability. The distinct, chilling sound of a child's pig-like squeal, faint but unmistakable, followed by a low, guttural grunt. The same sounds associated with Missy Lutz's unseen friend, Jody. These weren't hallucinations. They were too specific, too consistent across disparate individuals with no direct connection to each other, beyond their shared fascination with 112 Ocean Avenue. It was as if the house, denied new physical occupants, had found a way to project its malevolence, its very essence across the globe, attaching itself to the minds that dwelled upon its horrors. The insidious nature of the haunting was no longer confined by walls or geography. It had become a psychic contagion, spreading through the very act of remembering. The chilling truth is that the Amityville Horror was never truly about a single house or a single family. It was always about something far older, far more primal, a confluence of deep-seated evil, perhaps ancient Native American burial grounds beneath the property, as some legends suggest, coupled with the horrific energy of the DeFeo murders, created a potent living entity. This entity, the true force behind the Amityville Horror, now transcends its physical location. It is a parasitic consciousness, feeding on human fear, despair, and the very act of its own remembrance. It doesn't need to physically manifest to claim its victims. It simply needs an open mind, a curious thought, a moment of vulnerability. So, the next time you hear the story of Amityville, or see those iconic quarter-moon windows in a photograph, be careful. Be very careful. For the malevolence of 112, Ocean Avenue is no longer just a legend confined to a house on Long Island. It is a living, spreading contagion, a psychic virus that thrives on attention and feeds on fear. And if you ever find yourself gazing at those vacant, unsettling windows, or hear a faint, distant squeal in the quiet of your own home, know that the house may not want you to stay. It simply wants to know that you are listening. Because the Amityville Horror isn't just a story you hear. It's a story that, once heard, begins to live inside you. But the most insidious manifestation was their unconscious influence on their own surroundings. Objects in their homes would subtly rearrange themselves when no one was looking. Doors would creak open or slam shut without a draft. Electronics would flicker and malfunction, and the flies, out-of-season flies drawn by an unseen force, would begin to congregate in their homes, buzzing ominously at their windows. These weren't grand, terrifying poltergeist events. They were subtle, persistent, mimicking the early, less overt manifestations of the original Amityville haunting. The victims were, without knowing it, slowly turning their own homes into extensions of 112 Ocean Avenue, conduits for the same malevolent energy that had consumed the DeFeos and terrified the Lutzes. They weren't just haunted. They were becoming the haunting. The chilling culmination arrived when one of these infected individuals, overwhelmed by an unseen urge, would find themselves drawn to a loved one, a spouse, a child, their eyes burning with a fleeting, unholy light. A deep, guttural command would whisper in their mind, not their own voice, but the ancient, undeniable will of the entity. Join me. Make them stay. And for a horrifying moment they would fight it, a desperate internal struggle against an unseen current, before a flicker of the pig-like creature's red eyes would appear in their own reflection, and the struggle would cease. No one outside would ever know the silent battle that had just been fought and lost. And so, the Amityville Horror, once a confined tragedy, has become an enduring, ever-expanding nightmare. It doesn't need its iconic quarter-moon windows or its blood-stained history to find you. It simply needs your attention, your curiosity, your fear. It lives in the whispers on the wind, in the dreams you can't shake, in the inexplicable chill in your bones, and in the subtle, terrifying shifts within yourself. It is a virus of malevolence, spreading from mind to mind, transforming homes into new haunted houses, turning ordinary people into its unwitting hosts. So, the next time you hear a story or delve into the chilling details of a place like Amityville, remember this: the house isn't just a house, it's a seed. And once that seed takes root in your mind, once you allow its malevolence to truly live within you, there's no escape. Because the Amityville Horror isn't just a story you hear. It's a story that, once heard, begins to live inside you. And perhaps, even now, as you finish listening to these very words, a singular out-of-season fly might just be buzzing insistently at your window, drawn by an unseen force. And in the quiet of your home, you might feel a sudden, inexplicable chill. And if you dare to glance at your own reflection in your own quarter-moon window, you might just see, for a fleeting moment, a hint of red in your own eyes, and a faint, knowing smile that isn't quite your own. The Amityville Horror has always been about making you stay, and now it truly has.